So let us talk about changing your skills. If you want to, or just let me start with another point. Let me introduce myself. That might be the best way. Yeah, my name is Björn Peters. I'm working for Kirner & Crew as a senior consultant for Microsoft Data Platform and Azure. Kirner & Crew is a service provider based in Cologne, and we're working all over Germany. So I know a lot of customers and a lot of environments and different requirements from customers, how to teach or how to prepare themselves or their employees to go into the cloud and do their services there or provide their services from there. I'm now in the SQL Server since version 6.5. I'm a Azure Meetup organizer here in Hamburg since October 2016 with regularly monthly meetings. I'm a past Germany member since I think at least 2012. I'm doing volunteering, speaking, and several things on those SQL Pass events, not only in Germany, but for example, also in Austria. Due to this community things, I was awarded as an MVP since 4 years, or fourth time now this year. And also I have a private life, so I have a wife, son, and doing some hobbies within my spare time. And also I'm blogging on my blog post or blog here, SQL aus Hamburg.de. I'm an Azure administrator, I'm an Azure solution architect, and due to this, I'm a MCT since August of the year. So let us start with some introduction or first steps here. Your management has made the decision we are moving into the cloud. And you should not be afraid about those steps and those upcoming changes. There's nothing scary about it. There's nothing critical, and you don't have you don't need to be anxious to lose your job, to be alone, to be on the edge of a ladder. I don't know how to say. You won't be alone. There is so much chances, so much opportunities to learn from step by step with your own pace about all those new things. And it's not really new to you because it's the same thing as you. Mainly the first steps are the main thing within your own data center. So you're just moving normally, the most customers I know just change the data center, or moving the server from their own data center into a Azure data center. So it's just a data center movement. So you don't need to be fully into a new environment, into a new world of technology. It's just a movement from your virtual machines from left to the right, or from one data center to another. And after that, for example, changing a SQL Server virtual machine to a managed instance or to an Azure SQL database, that might be the next step, and that might be scary, but you should have all the time you need to be prepared to learn those things and getting more involved in those technology. So okay, see it as a chance and step ahead and prepare yourself.
So if I'm a normal DBA doing all this on-premises stuff with SQL Server, what do you think is a good point to start it?
A good point to start, just as I already mentioned in several sessions, you just need to try it out by yourself. Just, for example, go to Microsoft Learn. Let me show you. If you go to Microsoft Learn. You can see Microsoft Learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For example, you said you will be for example, a data engineer. You want to learn about
how to engineer.
How to engineer what is within the Azure SQL. You might see these are the certifications you can do there. Here is, for example, an implementation on Azure Data Solutions. You can click on that and you can see what you might learn for the DP200 app, for example, here. And these are the skills measured. And down there, you can find an online free course, for example, which leads you into all those basics. You can store data in Azure, work with relational data in Azure, NoSQL, large-scale data, and so on. It's not just text, it's also labs and knowledge tests, so you can get prepared within those free courses with your own pace. And it's a good point where you can start and what you can learn about Azure SQL, for example. Or it's just give it a try.
Nice gamified. You get points for your progress and all this stuff.
Correct.
It's very cool.
Sorry, I'm in a little bit progress. So I'm using it myself for preparing for my own sessions or my own certifications. And you can use it, and you have all the stuff and all the time. For example, there are labs within. Microsoft is preparing you a own lab environment for you. There are 10 sandboxes within, I think, a week you can use, and you can try everything out. It's explained step by step, and you can do it in your own pace and take your notes and try it again, remove it, do another step, or try it in another way. So it's very good explained.
So what do you, if you want to do the labs, what does a participant have to have? Does he have a Azure subscription and all this stuff and global admin rights, or how is it?
A good question. I must be honest, I don't know, because at least you have to have a Azure subscription or an Azure access. You should have access to a portal. You should be able to log on, and I might try it here for you. Give me a second. Yeah, I just found one. There is a exercise here. Oops. Move my browser. For example, here, exercise, create a storage account using Azure Portal and sign into a Azure Portal. This is the only requirement. You should be able, and Microsoft adds a subscription, a dev trial subscription to your account, which you should use, or which you can use just during your session, and it disappears after your 24 hours using this sandbox.
So it doesn't cost anything for you?
No, nothing. Configure the basic. Yeah, it should activate sandbox. So it's review permissions. Needs permission to your. Also, you should have a Azure subscription or access to Azure, so you can. That Microsoft is able to add this new subscription or grants to your user.
You could also use a PaaS subscription, not PaaS as the community, but a free trial from Microsoft.
For example, yes, you can use a free trial, or if you have a Azure PaaS from another event, you might use that account at those subscription or use it here. Yeah, it takes some time to log in. Then you have a normal, you can see it in your Azure portal, or some exercises are that you have a two split column screen here, that you have a command line interface on the right side beside the exercises, which you can read step by step and execute those commands in this command line.
Okay. If you think back about you're a SQL Server admin who did all this on premises over years, can you use the same tools which you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
With this Azure stuff?
Yeah. And during the last years, there's, for example, SQL Server Management Studio was enabled to use all those servers within your environment, or normally you connect your on-prem environment to the Azure cloud or to your VNet or network infrastructure in the cloud. And then you should be able to use the Management Studio as usual within your environment on premise. You should be able to use it on that virtual machine or with a managed instance within Azure Studio, Azure SQL database within the cloud. Yeah, there you can also use for example, PowerShell or DBA tools also in the cloud. Or Ola Hallengren's maintenance script, everybody knows, is also able to do some stuff on, for example, managed instance.
Okay, but I think there is not only one implementation of SQL Server on Azure. There are several ones.
Yeah. You for example, they are. That's not only just a SQL Server virtual machine. There is, for example, managed instance or Azure SQL single database, which you might use, and everything is SQL, but depends on or differences between how high is your budget and what do you want to reach with those databases. You might just get one database, you might get a bunch of databases, or you just need to, if you just want to have a better configuration, a better administration on a SQL server, and you don't want to have a virtual machine, but you just want to have a server or a SQL Server instance, you might use managed instance. Or if this doesn't fit, you just have to use a virtual machine with SQL Server within.
Okay.
And everything, there is an extension, a SQL Server extension for example, for the virtual machine, which can be used in the portal to administrate the basic things over the portal. So you can change basic things or have a better implementation of monitoring and logging within the Azure portal. Or you might use those basic things which are included in Azure, like log analytics might be able to store your SQL Server logs, and you can analyze them too.
Okay. If you see there's different implementations of SQL in Azure, what would you say is the difference between what you still have to do or what is made for you, if you think about platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, versa-wise? Do you still do backups? Or?
Yeah. It depends. It depends on the topic or on the service you are deploying there. If you, for example, if you're doing it in a virtual machine, it's still the same as you do it on-prem. You are responsible for those backups. For example, like with SQL Server agent jobs and Ola Hallengren maintenance script, or with a third-party tool, for example. You can do it also in Azure, or you're using Azure Backup as a service.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're responsible for your own for those backups. But if you're using, for example, managed instance or Azure SQL database, Microsoft is doing this for you,
Mm-hmm.
and doing this on a regular basis. It's also included in your SLA, and Microsoft provides you the opportunity to do a point in time restore up to a second, or in detail up to a second during the last 7 or 35 days, or even if you configure it, you can just extend the retention period for your backups up to 10 years if you configure it and configure a additional storage account to this. And then you can also restore those long-time retention backups to a new server or to the same server and as a copy of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we jumped over to another slide here. Where should you start? That's also answered already.
Mm-hmm.
You should start your journey on Microsoft Learn. This is the best point of starting. For example, if you want to get certified, or just want to learn, or just let me try to say it like this. If you want to start with a journey into learning, the best way is to look like what is my point here. I'm a data engineer. What's my job? And then I can see which courses or learning paths are recommended by Microsoft to me or for this job description, and you can go through those learning paths step by step, and you can see, for example, here we have nearly 3 hours. Here it's about 5 hours, 3 hours. There's so much stuff to learn, so much stuff to get into those topics, and it's not a one way or one time opportunity, but you can retry and repeat everything again and again. And it's not just you just finished and you won't get in there again, but you can repeat, get forward, get backward. Everything's possible. And you don't need to do a certification after that.
Mm-hmm. How is it about, if you are back at this SQL admin stuff, all this complicated stuff like replication, stuff like this, is this different in the cloud, or
no?
Would you say it's pretty similar?
It's pretty similar, yeah. You can do for example, you can build a hybrid scenario with availability groups, and you have, for example, the primary server is in your own data center on-prem, and the replica is in the cloud. So you have a disaster scenario for your disaster recovery scenario, where you can have a local copy of your data with backups, and you also can do a copy in the cloud with a virtual machine or managed instance, for example. It's also a destination for those availability groups, which you can use in the cloud, or as a secondary in the cloud. Yeah. As during SQL days, which were at the starting of this week, as we talked about that in the beginning, there was a participant who asked me, he asked me to explain it in a step-by-step way, which opportunities or which options are there, or which services are there to get into Azure or more into SQL Server things on Azure. It's growing and growing, as we talked about last session from Ben, Azure Arc Data Services, where you are able to deploy a managed instance in your own data center. So you are keeping or you're using the opportunity, you are using the
features.
Yeah, thank you. The features from Azure, like security, like monitoring, logging, patching, updating, backup, and so on. Okay, you have to pay a consumption fee to Microsoft for using managed instance on your on-premise environment, but Microsoft has given you the chance to deploy a managed instance in your own data center. That is making it a little bit more complex, or you have to learn some more stuff. For example, like me, I'm trying to be getting a certified Kubernetes admin because I have so much things to do actually with Kubernetes, which are enhancing all those features and extending the Azure portal or Azure environment to your on-prem environment, with Azure Arc. And yeah, it's getting more complex, and you have to decide which one is the right for you. But don't be afraid. It's not that difficult, and it's not that different from what you are knowing already. So, yeah.
So for a real beginner, what are the Azure basics?
The Azure basics. To getting known to the Azure basics, the product group has some real good stuff. If you don't want to read all those stuff or getting in touch for example, using Microsoft Learn with all those labs, you might also want to do just video. For example, Anna Hoffman and Bob Ward have a video series on YouTube, Data Exposed, where they do some stuff like Introduction to Azure SQL for beginners or basic Azure SQL stuff. You might just listen to them and they will explain it for beginners, and you can start with that. For example, I have some links here for you. AKSMS Azure SQL for beginners. That is a YouTube series about Azure SQL. Then there is another YouTube channel all about Azure. Sorry for the phone in the background. Azure SQL YouTube channel and the Azure SQL workshops, which are here in the. They also, the product group has built such a series on or labs and so on, where you can do those exercises, where you can do you can read presentation and so on. They have built a whole bunch of documents, exercises, labs, which you can test by yourself or exercise by yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so you can dig in the whole weekend.
For example, if you use if you use this Data Exposed series, I think they are 20 or 25 YouTube videos about 10 to 15 minutes, where they explain such things. Give me 10 seconds more. It's loading. Actually, it's sorry, 61 episodes.
Okay.
And every episode is about 5 to 10 minutes. So it's configure Azure SQL for availability, scenarios, challenges, call to action, resources, opportunities in the cloud with Azure SQL, restore to a point in time with Azure SQL databases. So everything we spoke about during the session, you can watch this as a YouTube video with Anna Hoffman and Bob Ward.
That's pretty good if it's that partitioned, because everybody knows some things and other things not. If we then have a very one stream, it's better to have 61 streams where you can say, okay, let me dig into that, and the other things I already know.
Yep. There are some. We spoke about Microsoft Learn Azure SQL Basics before. This is Azure SQL Fundamentals. There will be a new fundamental certification in the future, which is called Azure Data Fundamentals, a DP900, which will be available, I think, during the last time of this year, somewhere, I don't know. And GitHub Azure SQL Workshop, that's the Azure SQL Bootcamp, where you can, it's also on GitHub, where you can learn or have a look into and do all those learning stuff within your own pace.
Okay. So from the participants, does any one of you have questions? So you could ask them or write to the chat, but you can even unmute and ask Björn.
As we will provide the presentation, you will be also able to click on that link, so I don't need them to publish them here or to paste them into the chat. But as you will get the presentation, you can use that as a source for your links.
And I think we will also add them when it's published, when the session will be published to YouTube once in a time. And I think they will be contained in the show notes below, so you can click on it.
Yeah. So if you have any questions on this content or on our discussion here, you might get in contact with me or with Stefan. Thank you, Stefan, for moderating and doing this discussion with me. Yeah, thank you to the participants, and have another several sessions you will learn here or join and learn. Have fun, and hopefully we'll see each other or listen to each other during the after session.
Thank you very much, Björn, for your time and your knowledge and for sharing with us. So I wish all the participants another cool sessions in the afternoon. And so, bye all together.
Thank you. Bye.